Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. This video is brought to you by First Detachment Nutrition. Battle tested, expert formulated. Use discount code AB10 at checkout for 10% off. All right, folks. Big Paul here today with Skip Hill and Justin Harris. What's up, guys?
So,
just noticed that all three of us have glasses. I don't know if that means anything. I don't know if as you get older.
We're smart.
We're all using stage names too.
I was good till about 5 years ago. You guys haven't worn glasses for a long time, right? Is the computer that
No, mine's new. You know what's wild? I couldn't read. It was getting to where I could not read like my emails.
Yep.
You know, and so I thought I just getting old. I went in and the doc says, yeah, you need reading glasses. He said, but you need glasses. He said, you've needed glasses your whole life.
Oh.
And so I was so pissed. And when I never realized, but I put them on the first time, my wife was cracking up. She started taking videos of me because I was like, but I immediately wanted to, because I was obsessed with baseball as a kid. I like immediately wanted someone to come throw me a curveball.
Yeah.
I was like, well, how much was I missing out on? Because I never knew I needed glasses. They're not. It's not got terrible vision, but he said, yeah, it's not just you need like reading and bifocals, but he said, no, you have pretty bad vision.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was Carlos Rogers that used to play for the Redskins here, and they cut him because he was like dropping interceptions all the time when he was a defensive back, and then he went to San Francisco and got glasses and started like intercepting the ball all the time.
Well, you play baseball and everyone talk about like reading the seams, and I never could. I was like, I don't know. Like, I thought people just saying that. I would I'd judge a curveball because people would always, their hand would be a little bit different. There'd be some, you could usually catch some motion, but now like I wish I could go back and play another year.
Yeah, I fought it big time, and it got to the point where I was literally holding my phone up like it and squinting and giving myself a headache. And it's funny. I know we all did the same thing. You put them on, you're like, "Oh shit!" Like,
this is great.
Like, why did I wait to do this? This is awesome.
Yeah. I just started wearing them like a year or so ago. My eyes started getting bad. I have the progressives, and then I have these reading glasses that I have for the computer. I actually just got a new prescription the other day.
Yeah, I did. How was it with the bifocals? Is that what you have? I was nauseous for weeks.
Yeah, man, those things are weird, dude.
I can't.
They make me dizzy. Like
I was nauseous for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I took them back. I'm like, I'm sorry. I know I'm supposed to try them, but I can't try them. I need different glasses. So I have different glasses for driving because what happens with me, especially at night, is all the tail lights run together. Yeah, it's like this big red thing, and I put them on, and it's a different prescription. I guess it's not odd because you're farsighted or you're nearsighted. So, but I have a pair in the car, and then I have these for reading. I can watch TV, I can do other things mid range and drive during the day, no problem. But the computer ate me up.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I was doing readers. I had my regular glasses, and then I'd put readers, different ones on.
Yep.
But then I finally did the bifocals, and I decided I was just going to work through the nausea. But it lasted. Geez, it was probably a month before I could wear them all day. It'd be like I'd wear them for an hour, and then I'd have to go back and wear my readers at the computer. But now I'm fully integrated now.
Yeah, I'm somewhat used to them, but I've been on them for about a year and a half. But I mostly wear the reading glasses. You don't need the glasses to drive. You have to join the Tesla club with Justin and I. I'll drive itself for you.
You like cars? Aren't you a car guy, Skip?
I am. I mean, I was a truck. I had a Pavement Princess for quite a while, and that was kind of my project in Colorado. But we moved here, and I always wanted. I don't want to say a sports car, but I mean, I wanted an M3 really bad, and end up coming across a real good deal on an M5. And I tell you, I'm a BMW guy. I don't know how I would drive without power now. I don't think I could do it.
I almost got the M3. I went for that. Justin convinced me to get the Tesla.
Yep. It's the play because I just sold it. I had a Lotus Evora 400, and I never drove it because it was 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds, 196 mile an hour top speed, but it felt like an old van compared to the Tesla, the Plaid.
Right.
I mean, it's like it. So I really like the Tesla's like a daily driver that was also faster than anything, and
right.
And so I finally
faster than an M5. I mean, come on, let's
Well, I've been all that I've wanted an M for. That's still. I'm already thinking it's like as soon as I got rid of the Lotus, the next day it was a nice warm day, and I was like, because there is something about, because that's supercharged and it's mid-engine, so hearing that supercharger behind you or just hearing the rumble, there's always something about that. I'd like to get maybe a big, naturally aspirated, big black old something, but nice. I don't know if at some point.
Yeah, the internal combustion engine cars, there's just something about them. It's not the same. I almost got the BMW. I was like that close.
Well, and I'm looking at an EV. I mean, I've been talking about them. I think Justin, you saw I posted on it about a year ago or so. Yeah. And BMW is coming out with some wicked sweet EVs.
Yeah,
they've got some cool ones.
But I don't know.
It's such the immediate power is it's so different. There's you don't have to wait for any, no revs to build up. It's just instantaneous. It's a weird
in the maintenance, almost. The low maintenance, the rebate on it is still there. I don't think it is with Tesla anymore because they put out
some of their models are cheap enough, but like the Y might be. But then even brakes, because it's regenerative braking. So that's kind of hard to get used to at first, because you take your foot off the gas and it brakes to help recharge the batteries a little bit. So it's kind of weird because you have to constantly keep on the throttle. There's no neutral coast or anything, but that's great because you hardly ever even use the brakes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like driving a bumper car.
yeah.
Where you take the foot off the gas and it just dies. Once you get used to it, it took me a couple of weeks to get used to it. But it's weird driving my Honda now. I don't even want to drive it.
Oh, I have a old 2008 Ford F-250, a 6.4 liter diesel. That a plow truck that I used to plow our properties, and it's getting in that thing. I almost get in accidents because I forget what a safe distance is to pull out in front of someone. And I'll pull out, and I'm like, I'm giving it everything it's got. That turbo's trying to spool up, and it's rumbling and grumbling and not moving.
Did we lose Skip?
6 liter, but I took
you had a 6.0
stack in the back. That thing would roll coal. It was an awesome truck.
You said you broke up. You had a 6 liter. You said
6 liter 250.
Did you bulletproof it or?
It actually, I bought it used, so it had already been bulletproofed before I bought it because I bought it at 30,000.
Oh, nice.
So I got lucky in the sense because they had a lot of problems with that engine.
Yeah, but if you bulletproofed it, they put some power out. They call them 6-point goes. I mean, if you took care of the head gasket issues and stuff, they're pretty cool trucks, and they sounded awesome.
I chipped it.
Amazing.
Took the cattle air horn or a train horn, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Yeah.
I had LEDs on the front and the back, so if you were following me too close up through the canyon, I literally would blind you. I'd just flip the switch, and it was funny because I had options. I'm like, I could just let the turbo back off a little bit, let the turbo spool up, and it would just dump.
Yeah. And those are the best turbo sound
because of the stat. Oh yeah, yep, I agree. Sound like a jet engine when I turn it off.
What year was it?
06.
Yeah. Those were it's like the best turbo sound of any of the diesel trucks, I think.
Well, I think that's why I didn't stay with trucks, because they ended up, especially Ford, they changed to that. And my buddy had a problem with his. It was like $6,000 to fix it, but it would the emissions had to be so much lower, so it would like collect the diesel dust and burn it or something. I don't know.
The EGR and stuff. Well, that's the problem. That was the problem with the 6.0 is because they had the 7.3 liter before that, which I had an old 7.3, and those were just those.
Well, Steve had one, didn't he?
Oh no, yes, he might. Yeah, he did have one. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
That white one.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah, because he's got a 6.7 now. That's like all built. It's got 750 horse or something. But mine. I finally sold it like 300,000 miles, and the only reason was the compression was so bad that you had the glow or the glow plugs. Yeah, because the Cummins has a block heater. I'd have to plug it in the summer. It was starting that thing is so bad by the end, but I loved it. If you could get it started, it would go forever and pull anything you needed. But getting it started was a bear.
Yeah, I started mine without glow plugs because there wasn't a plug at Rabbit Ears Pass, which is in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, at about 7 a.m. one morning when it said -21. And I'm telling you, I think 5 years off that engine because I only had about 2 cranks left and it wasn't going to start.
Yeah.
I don't even know how it started.
That was at the 7.3 at the end when I was at work. I would have to park because I worked at Eaton, like heavy duty truck transmissions. I'd park where the semis parked so I could plug it in.
Nice.
Because it would, even an 8-hour day, it would, by the end of that, it wouldn't start. But if you could get it started, it would go forever. It was just getting there.
Yeah. Hey, curious, no one's going to get this reference but you and I. But was that the Eaton's plant on 94?
Yeah.
I thought it was. It was. Every time I pass there when I go back, I think, oh, I bet this is where Justin worked.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It's funny.
Are you a Michigan guy originally, Skip?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Battle Creek. My wife is from Michigan too, so we're both from Southwest Michigan. We met at a club. I was bouncing at a club in Kalamazoo called Top of the Rock, and she was underage.
It's still there, I think. It's still there. Top there.
It is. The building is. It's because it's not far from Eaton's, but it's big. What's it called? Brothers and Sisters. Big. What is that charity? I forget. Big Brothers or
Big Brothers.
Brothers and Sisters.
Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Yeah.
Something like that.
Big
Anyway,
Brothers,
I went in there
yeah.
because I'll stop there. I'll stop there sometimes just to kind of remember because I'd work outside, in the parking lot because it was one of those crazy places that, you're only supposed to have 700 people in there and we'd have 1,200 and the owner didn't care.
You do that thing where at the door, you click every other person. So
exactly.
If the cops come,
yeah, exactly. And then the fire marshal come and clear the place out.
No, look, the clicker only says 300.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
And there were 2 girls working the front desk. I said, you know what? I just wanted to come in real quick. I don't want to be a pain in the butt, but I used to work here. So I met my wife, we've been married for over 25 years. She's like, oh my gosh, I used to come here too. So we sat there and reminisced about the time that I worked there versus the time she would go. And we were there at the same time and just kind of old stories about, it being a club. It was a lot of fun.
And so many bodybuilders from Michigan. What's the deal? Is it a bodybuilding state?
There's nothing else to do. Have you been to Michigan?
Yeah, it's very blue collar, and I think blue collar areas like that are big. I always laughed and said if I had the money now, then I probably would have done something else too.
Exactly. Yeah. What else when you got no money for a hobby? $30 a month gym membership. That's your hobby. Where and do any other hobby for $30 a month.
And I think too. You guys tell me what you think, but this is my experience. Especially living in West Palm and stuff like that. It's just a little bit different because it's I don't know. It's kind of pretentious and there's fucking a lot of money down here. I thought there was a lot of money in Denver. There's a lot of money here, but I think sports and kids who want to really excel at sports don't come from the higher socioeconomic plan.
Yeah, definitely. No.
So sure. I think you get that drive and that ambition to really better yourself from an athletic standpoint. Really in that middle and lower class, especially the lower class, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, think how many, you live in a nice area. Everyone that plays baseball has got like their own personal pitching coach and own hitting coach, but who's playing in the majors? The kid down in the Dominican Republic and using a stick hitting rocks right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, it's the same thing with the NFL. Like all the great NFL players are from just like small country towns, usually most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, look at baseball. I mean, you got to go to DR, and that's those kids have to know, and their parents have to be telling them, look, we don't have any money. You're going to be poor for the rest of your life. You need to get out there and play some ball and hit the ball around. And
you see some of the stuff they do. They're wearing flip flops and they'll drive nails through them to make spikes.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's driven,
nuts, man.
Motivated, ambition.
Being poor, being hungry, it's a lot of success has been driven by not wanting to be the way you are right now.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you can see it in people, whether it be bodybuilding or sports, when they get that money and their lifestyle becomes a little cushy and they're not as motivated, then it becomes a money issue, and they're motivated by the money versus that passion for what they started out doing.
You know what's funny is when Tiger Woods went through his divorce and then his golf game really dropped off, that was right when I was fully obsessed with bodybuilding. And I remember thinking it just didn't make sense to me because there's nothing that could have done that to me at that time in bodybuilding. You know, like, how do you just like not, you know, how can you just not be obsessed when you were? But then it happened to me, you know, I mean, I didn't get divorced. My wife didn't hit me with a 9-iron, but it was, you know, other things happened where, you know, like I had success with the business, and the business kind of became focused more than bodybuilding. And then I realized, like, the difference between the only thing I wanted to do was go to the gym to now it felt like I had to go to the gym.
Right.
And it totally made sense then why that happens to people.
Yep. So do you see the gym as an obligation? Because I know I do sometimes.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't have a choice. It's kind of part of my work day. It's part of my job.
I feel like I have to. I feel like, I feel like I'm not, I don't even know the word. I'm not, there's some integrity loss, or I'm not on, if I'm not in the game myself to some extent, you know, but it's definitely not like, I mean, I used to not be able to sleep the night before a squat session when I was trying to hit a certain number or something, you know, be so excited about it, where now it's like, it's checking a box. It's like, oh, it's 9 a.m. and whatever, you know, I'll go get my workout in. I gotta, you know, and I have my workout, where it used to be like my workout was so that I stop myself from doing too much, where now the sets and reps are there to just check the boxes. It's, you know, before it was like, so I had to have a planned workout, so I wasn't there for 4 hours killing myself. Now it's, I have to check the planned workout, so I actually do something.
Yeah.
I kind of had the opposite thing to happen. I completely fell off. I got divorced, and then I got remotivated to get back in when I got the divorce. That was really kind of my spark to get back into the gym. I didn't work out for like 10 years. I remember I used to be on your board. I remember I was on there all the time, and then I had kids, and I got obsessed with business. And
what was your handle?
Or
Big P3RD.
What about this though? What I'm wondering is this: can anybody go back out on the singles market and not be in shape though? Because I mean, I know I see it with a lot of clients' wives or husbands, even.
How many do you have?
Once they're in that marriage, they become a bit complacent. They don't have to do the things, you know, that they did when they were single to try to, you know, reel one in, and they become, I don't want to say, you know, it's not lazy, I guess, as much as complacent. And I think that happens. I don't see too many people. Sometimes I can see friends, and I will know ahead of time. I'm like, ooh, you just made an about face. All of a sudden, you're losing all this weight. You get, and sure as shit, within a year, they're gone.
What they say, complacent in the dictionary is described as the married man's word for lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely fell off. I used to even, as Skip fired me, I was a model on his board at one point.
That's funny. We were talking about that on the podcast too, because I said to him, I'm like, did I really fire you? Like, I can't remember. I don't know about you guys, but I can't remember what I ate for breakfast. I have a hard time remembering.
People remember stuff from the boards. I mean, I feel like I remember a lot of it, and that was like a big part of my life. But the stuff people remember will blow your mind. I mean, people will remember, and they'll rewrite something you wrote in 2009 word for word. You know, and it's really crazy how big of an impact. Intense muscle, especially, like. When was I really on that board heavily? 2005 to 2008, probably.
Yeah.
You know, and people still, that's like a large percentage of the people I meet in the sport. That's the first thing they say is remembering me from intense muscle. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's just crazy to me, that, because I mean, you know, like a name will pop up, like someone like Massive G, you know, someone mentioned his name not too long ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, I remember. But it wasn't like at the tip of my tongue, where like, a lot of these it's crazy how big of an impact the boards had. I don't think you can, I mean, maybe it's hard to say. Maybe it'll be the same thing with social media. Maybe Instagram will die, and then 15 years down the road, well, I mean, Intense Muscle's still around, so maybe Instagram will fade off or like the social media as it is currently will fade kind of into something else, and people will reminisce, and it probably will happen that way, I guess. But it's just really interesting to me. It's like, you know, like the stuff people remember from 15 years ago that I don't even remember, that I did or that I wrote.
Yeah, I remember. I remember John Meadows being on there. What was he, Mountain Dog 1 or something like that? I think was his name. Mm-hmm. I remember Dr. Scott. What was it?
Homunculus.
Homunculus. Yeah.
I remember him being on there. Dante, dog crap himself.
Mm-hmm.
I was obsessed with the DC
TOG,
training stuff.
Two G's, two P's, was it? Dog crap.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
I think he was glad to come up with the DC moniker instead.
Yeah.
I think he
That's better.
kind of regretted.
Do you know what's funny? A guy almost wanted to fight me in the gym one time because he was doing DC training. And I know he was because he was doing extreme stretches, and I watched him do a Widowmaker, and I go up to him, and he's a big guy. And I was like, "Oh, you doing dog crap training?" And he looked at me like he'd never been so insulted in his life. He never heard that word before. But I was basically saying his workout was dog shit, you know. He was all worked up, and I was like, I'm trying to explain to him, like, no, it's a real thing. Dog crap training. It's not. I'm not saying your workout's dog shit.
Right.
But he had. So I wonder where he got that from. I bet you someone stole it, pirated it, and was just training people with it without saying what it was. I'm sure.
Oh, I know it's been stolen and copied, I think still to this day. I mean, if you Google dog crap, it's just crazy. And I know when I first found that out, I laid into a couple of the guys because they were selling information and everything else. I'm like, you just lack any integrity and any character at all. You know full well that this doesn't have anything to do with you. And this isn't the first time you've been told, and you continue to do it. Yeah,
it's a very common thing. I mean, not just in this sport, in all areas, but it's crazy how people will take something that's so popular. I mean, if you find some obscure thing, like stealing a little bit of information to pass a test or something, or write a paper, right. But like stealing like something that's like really well known and popular, it's amazing to me that people think they can pass it off. But I mean, I guess they can because people do it.
Yeah.
Can I remember I stumbled into Dante, what was it, back in the 90s? What was that newsletter he had? Was it Underground Muscle? Hardcore Muscle? Or
Hardcore Muscle, yeah, it's Hardcore something, yeah.
Yeah, I remember buying that newsletter, and that's where I first found him from. It was like they were, I think it was like a little like classified ad in the back of one of the magazines or something is where I found that from.
Dante and I got off on the wrong foot, actually. The Cycles for Pennies thread, I chimed in and I was like, guys, because people were arguing against it. I was like, guys, it's not rocket science. He's telling you to, eat more food, get stronger, and you'll grow. Well, Dante, I think, just read like if it's not rocket science part is basically, and he DM'd me and he's like, dude, I'm just trying to help people out. I was like, oh, no. I was like, you totally didn't mean it that way. I'm saying it's not rocket science, meaning like, obviously this will work. If you eat more food and lift more weight, you're probably going to add some size. Yeah. And then we hit it off after that. But he was pretty pissed at me to start because he thought I was saying I think he thought I was saying his program was like too simple-minded. I don't even know. But yeah, it was funny that's how we ended up meeting, actually, was him thinking I was trashing him.
And it wasn't simple-minded, but in concept, it was simple.
Yeah, it's foolproof. If you take a guy and he's eating 2,000 calories and 2 years from now he's eating 4,500 calories and hasn't gained a bunch of body fat and he's twice as strong, there's only one outcome in that situation. He's carrying more muscle mass. Now, whether or not it's the most optimal way to get there, you could argue things like that, but you can't argue that if someone's eating twice as much food and lifting twice as much weight and hasn't gained and hasn't doubled in body fat, they've added muscle. It's like,
I got a question.
Really, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say it's really just progressive overload distilled down to its the core principles.
Yeah, and minimizing, overtraining by maximizing recovery. I completely agree with you. Yeah. I got a question for you guys though about DC training that I can't answer, and I've always asked it. I didn't ask it at Dante because, of course, that way he would be pissed because it would be me questioning, the sequence. But what was the reason to train back after biceps? I can't figure this out.
And I never did that. And you know what I've found? I apparently have no idea what DC training is. I don't know if it's like the telephone game you'd play in school, if after 20 years, because people will describe DC training to me and I'm like, well, and they'll ask me questions like they expect me to be an expert in it because I trained that way for a while. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what the fuck you're saying. I don't remember it being anything like people have overanalyzed it and picked it apart, and where it's like that's so pedantic now. Where it's crazy how like you can't veer from anything. And I'm like, look, for me, it was always like you said, progressive overload. I don't even remember exactly what it was, other than there was rest pause sets, did a Widowmaker, and then the extreme stretching. And it was basically, like, don't overtrain, use the rest pauses and try to make, overload progressively. And then there was the 20 rep set. And like, I don't think as the online DC experts now, I don't think I did DC correctly, because anytime I even mention it, there's someone messages me immediately, tell me how I don't know anything about DC training. So.
I believe the back or the biceps before back thing was, if I recall correctly, it was him saying that if you train back properly, you should be completely nuked afterwards and not have anything left in the gas tank.
Okay,
that would make sense.
Yeah, and with DEADS being a big component of the back training, I can understand.
Yeah, you're not going to want to train. You're not going to want to train biceps after that. I think that was sort of the idea, if I recall correctly. But
I think that might be partly for me why I don't remember that. I really never. I never did much for biceps. That was like my one body part that, everyone's got like their one body part that they don't really have to work on. And that was it for me.
Yeah. We don't. The rest of the world does not have that. Paul and I we're confused. We're like, what the hell is he talking about? I don't skip body parts. I can't afford to skip body parts.
It's like Eric Frankhauser with his legs. You know how you train legs once a year and they get too big?
Right.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I can't relate to that. I'm sorry.
For me, it's my calves. Like, I get guys that ask me all the time what I do for calves. I got like 22-inch calves, and I'm like, I never fucking train my calves ever. I don't do anything for them.
Yeah, back to Eric Frankhauser. I was at his first national show, North Americans, and when he walked out on stage, everyone started laughing because we thought it was such a terrible synthol in his calves. And then he turned around and flexed them, and we realized, and it was like, then it turned to like a gasp. It was the craziest thing, because I was part of it. I was like, oh my God, this guy stepped on stage with synthol that bad. From the front, when they're relaxed, they just looked like two udders. And then he turns around and flexed them, and they're striated and like they're that shelf. And I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, I'd like to try that one day out of the last 40 years where someone just looks at me and is just slack-jawed because of my physique. I haven't had that happen yet. I'm still holding my breath. I'm waiting.
When's your birthday, Skip? I'm sending a video. I'm going to send a room of me just mesmerized.
March 9th.
Right.
You're looking pretty good in your pics, Skip. You're back in form.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I've been back since the end of November. And I had a cascade of really nasty injuries for about 2 years, and I think I just posted that today because I was doing curls like a week before I tore my glute, and it just brings up, it's cringeworthy to me to see those things and be reminded of them, because it was just such a long. Honestly, it's one of those things, especially at our age, and I assume you guys have dealt with this at some point on some level, but being injured when you're 30 or 25 or 35 is one thing, but when you have such a horrible, like your worst injuries, and you're at 50 and that prep was going, it couldn't have gone any better. In fact, it was going so well that I laughed to myself saying, something's going to happen. Like, I'm on cruise control. I'm doing zero cardio. I was doing walks. I counted the walks more as neat, but some people will argue and say it's cardio, whatever.
People will argue, and it doesn't matter.
Pretty much. But my point is just that it was coming so easily, and my condition was just so good. And I don't think I've had a prep go that well. And then it went to shit. And I'm so excited. It's funny because there's always a silver line. There's a silver lining if you look for it. And to work through, because obviously the left glute caused the right knee issues, because I'd never had knee issues in my life. And that ended up being worse than the glute, to the point where I was told that I wasn't going to be able to train legs again. I was told that twice by specialists in the field. And to be able to move through it and get through everything and be able to come back, I really am now excited again, because it's a little bit more, I don't know, is a little bit of passion back because I feel grateful for being, I thought I was done. And even though I was never a great body, but I'm mediocre at best. I can get into pretty good condition. And yeah, I'm older and yeah, okay. And I look good for a 53-year-old guy. But I've always had that, well, 99% of the time I've had that in check. I've had my ego days where I thought I was going to go kill everybody on stage, but that got that adjusted. My ego got adjusted relatively quickly there. But I've always had it in perspective. I've always been realistic, and to not be able to do or be told that you can't do all of a sudden, like I didn't slowly move into it, but pretty much all of a sudden, it was a horrible, horrible feeling. So to be able to move through it, and I've always said this, I think that at least with myself, and I would think that I can't be the only one who thinks this, injuries and setbacks a lot of times can be really huge learning experiences, because I had to really dig into to mechanics, and I had to use my brain and be smart, be methodical, be patient. And I am not a patient individual. I had to do a lot of things that I had to step out of the box to be able to do. And had I not been able to do that, I think a lot of people would have just quit. And I just didn't. The alternative was I just sit on my couch and eat Cheetos and drink Mountain Dew. I really had to force myself to go through it. And it was horrible. I mean, I'd go into the gym. I just hated it. I hated every aspect of it. And there's nothing worse than you start to come back and you're maybe squatting 135 and you get out of the set and you're excited. And people are looking at you like, what the fuck? Like, you don't know what I'm battling. You don't know what I'm dealing with. Let me be excited because I just squatted 135 for 12 or 15 reps with no pain for the first time in, 2 years, maybe.
Yeah, I was very lucky in that I never had injuries, but like looking back, I have so many tears, little tears that I like didn't even really realize were injuries at the time. But I had like my heavy stuff kind of was like forced away from me, like kind of like the same thing, like just at the, like all at once, unplanned. Pollock and I were training during COVID, and we drove up to Muskegon, and we were going to film and recreate Ronnie Coleman's unbelievable workout, his back workout. We weren't going to no one can do that, but Ben could do the deadlifts, and I could do the T-bar rows and possibly the bent over rows, because he went to 585 on bent over rows. But at that time, I had done, I think, 495, and I want to say I did 545 for like a couple of reps. And so I thought, like, and this is COVID, and so like the world shut down, and I had a key to the gym, and so this is one of the biggest I'd ever been. I was around 295, and I have some videos. I post them every once in a while repeatedly so that people think I'm still that strong. But of me bent over rowing like 495 for 10, and I was warming up, and I did my last warm up which was 495 for like I was going to do like 3 or 4 on bent over rows, and on the second rep, my lower back just exploded. And I knew immediately, and I still don't know what I did because it was COVID. You couldn't get in anywhere. Yeah. So I couldn't walk. It was completely done. And I mean, and that was like the last heavy back thing I'd done. And it was, like you said, with the squats, I remember, probably the next summer, doing squats, and it was kind of the same thing, being able to actually squat, because I couldn't anything. I still had to be really careful. I don't know if I fractured. I feel like I couldn't have fractured a disc, or it seems like it wouldn't have healed properly. I'm sure I like a rupture or something. Yeah. But it was that really kind of sucked, because I was really excited about training like I hadn't been in probably a decade, and as big as I'd been in a decade, and as strong as I'd ever been. And just like that, it was gone. And I still can't do, I don't know if I can, I'm still scared to do anything heavy, bent over, deadlifts, rows, or any back. And I don't think I've gone over 4 or 5 on squats since then. But it's a weird thing when you train for 25 years injury free, and then boom, an injury. And now at that point, you're, I mean, I'm in my mid 40s now, but I was early 40s then, and it was basically a life sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I blew out my ACL completely. Was it 4.5 years ago? It wasn't too long before I started working with you. Justin. That was pretty shitty. I was playing basketball. I wasn't even lifting.
I was gonna say, I was wondering. I'm like, you probably didn't do that in the gym. You were doing something you weren't supposed to be doing.
Yeah,
Playing basketball with the young guys.
Yeah,
and I felt it explode, and I'm like, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Did you get it repaired, or did you?
Oh yeah, I had. It was completely ripped off the bone.
Oh.
Yeah, it was completely ripped off the bone. I got it repaired. I had it. It was that, and my MCL was partially torn as well. So I just went ahead and got both fixed, and then I was back in the gym 2 days later, man. I got back in the gym and just, did what I could.
Yeah.
Kept going.
Feed it some blood any way you can, as light as possible.
That was pretty
what's funny is seeing how that's come around, because when I was in, learning like therapeutic modalities almost 30 years ago, it was back then it was RICE, rest, ice, compression, elevation. Then I think they went to RICE's, rest, ice, and compression, elevation, stabilization, and then MICE's, motion, ice. I don't even know what it is anymore, but it keeps moving more towards motion, the area.
Yep.
Where, like, when I first learned, it's like, oh, you're injured, don't ever move that part for body part for 6 months. And now we're like, well, shit, that was really bad advice. No, actually, we want to do the opposite. But
I'd probably still have that injury had I sat back and just rested and not did anything.
Oh yeah,
excuse me.
It's funny that that's when I crack up now, because right now, like, soreness doesn't cause muscle growth. Like, as soon as anyone mentions soreness or delayed onset muscle soreness or anything, because the recent study showing it's mechanical tension that causes myofibrillar hypertrophy, and it cracks me up because that's the 10th or 11th time we've known what causes muscle growth since I've been following the sport. But it's funny how, like, we know so little about the human body, and we're always so sure we know everything about the human body, even though everyone that's been involved in doing anything with the human body for any length of time has known that our knowledge has completely changes every decade, but we're still always sure what we know currently is exactly correct.
Now, is that part of the reason I'm asking you guys this? Is that part of the reason that as good trainers stay in the industry and they train more people? Is that part of the reason there's humility?
I think so.
Is it kind of an understanding? That's kind of what I think too. I think it's an understanding, because you see, I know I'll just speak for myself. I was an arrogant dick.
Oh,
and, you come out and and in defense of myself, I'll say this. I felt like at the time that I had to be kind of confrontational and have that attitude to get noticed so people would listen. I'm not saying I was right. Don't get me wrong. But that was, I think, my thinking at that time. I didn't know it at the time. But looking back on it, I think that played a big role. But I still had the ego because I thought I had all these answers that everyone needed to hear because they weren't getting it right. In part, because I think we were being fed at that time, maybe not even just at the time, maybe in general, but more so at that time, with things that I was starting to see were just not true. They were misunderstood. They were antiquated. It was an antiquated ideology that was, we talked about a lot of that stuff back then, from fruit. We'd get called out all the time and argued with because, that can't, be used as glycogen, things like that.
You still see that. Yeah. That's funny.
No, just those types of things. And I think that has played a part in some of the long-standing trainers to kind of go, okay, I need to check my ego here, because I'm constantly learning, and I've been in this business. You've been in this business. You guys have been in this business for a long time, and you're still learning. And I think we accept that, holy shit, what is this going to look like in 10 years, another 10 years, or another 20 years?
Exactly.
Is something I said going to be proved wrong? And
my wording, when I reply to people, there's a lot more. As far as I know, to my current understanding, I believe, where it used to be, absolute. And, like, I'm sure I could go back and find some things that I would just kind of like wince at, because but even then it's like the mechanical tension thing, is because, like you'd be talking, or like when I was in school, you'd be talking to professors who would be repeating things that that they knew was true 25 years ago. And like the cutting edge science was kind of showing things differently. And of course, when you're really obsessed with something, that's what you're always learning, the cutting edge stuff. You know, you're reading the research stuff, you're reading the frontline research stuff where, you know, you're taking a 101 class anywhere. They're not going to be, you're not you know, like entry level classes aren't teaching the cutting edge stuff. They're teaching the old school tried and true stuff, which very likely is not even correct anymore. But it's like that with the mechanical tension, you know, those kids that read, you know, like Brian Schoenfeld puts out an Instagram post from a research study showing us mechanical tension that causes muscle growth. And now, so they know that, and they know that most people think it's something else. And so they just scour the internet for anyone even implying that muscle growth comes from anything other than mechanical tension, so they could jump on it. Yeah. And I probably did the same thing, you know, back then with things that, like we said, may or may not be true anymore. And so I'm much more humble and cautious in my replies. That, you know, a lot of statements start with "I believe," or, you know, as far as I know currently, where it used to just be, you know, this is it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I always preface everything from what I understand.
Yeah.
And you know, at the same time too, and this doesn't justify it, I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to defend my position, but there was a bit of reverence in the message board days that when you were put up, I'll speak for myself, when you are put up on a pedestal and you get a bit of reverence, and you know, let's be fair, we talked, and I don't know if you remember this discussion or not, but we spoke. It was a group of us. It was like Dante and you and myself and a couple other people. And the gist of it, I'm paraphrasing, was we could basically say that eating cat turds will make you huge, and people would go eat cat turds. Yeah. I mean, and there's something to be said of that, really. I mean, you know, I can laugh about it, you know, we'll laugh about it, but it's a reminder too, and you were saying this, you know, 15 minutes ago, it's a reminder too, the things that people remember us saying, you know, whether it was about training or anything, that the things we say are impactful. I mean, people, and I think we need to be reminded of that sometimes, because I've always been one to say, you know, what I do is first world shit. I am blessed that I have people that have disposable income that want to pay me so that I can, you know, live in a high rise and not work a 9 to 5 and make a damn good living and send kids to college. That's awesome, because my dumb ass would probably have a regular job not making much money, if I'm being honest, or working in a gym. So it's a reminder to me that even though I'm not doing, I'm not saving lives, I'm not doing heart surgery, I have to be careful to not downplay what I do, because there are people that will, I mean, I don't want to say we're not changing lives, because the impact that we have on people sometimes does have that type of impact. And the things that we say, even though they may have been 20 years ago, and they were good opinions and good information at the time based on our experience and the science at that time, even if it does evolve, it doesn't necessarily make it, I don't think, bad information. It may not make it correct or as accurate today as it was 20 years ago. But I'd even go so far as to say this: if you went back through Intense Muscle, I think you'd have a hard time finding things that we said, unless we were guessing or speculating, that really were just backwards.
No, I agree 100%. I don't think you could go through and just take the bulk of the information that we put out back then and organize it into a book or something. And if someone followed that, they would be a good bodybuilder. I mean, it's you know, and you could argue they might be better than they are now, because you could argue that the physiques were better back then. Yeah. But what I think sometimes about the message boards, what I liked about them was that until you got known, you would get confronted. If you said something, you had to have a reason behind it, because people would confront you about it. And I always, every time we talk, I bring up the same thing about the first time we met, which I don't think you remember, on Anabolics, where I said, I think I had people cut clenbuterol a couple weeks out of a contest because I thought it would affect fullness, and you disagreed, and we had like an argument, and you changed my opinion actually about that. And you don't get that on social media, you know, because you just say something and if someone does say something, if someone does disagree with you, you just block them. Right. But then the downside of the boards is what you just said about the cat turds, was that once you've gone through that process, that, you know, once you've gone through the gauntlet, and had everyone, you know, confront you and argue, and you had to prove your points, and you've proved it enough to kind of work yourself up to where you're, you know, a member in good standing, where people believe what you say. It almost kind of swung too far in the opposite direction,
Right.
where, like you said, you could say eat cat turds, and no one would argue against it.
Mm-hmm.
Which unfortunately, that's where you start on social media, because you could say that and because no one can argue against it, because you can just block them.
Yeah.
But
what was the one guy that was feeding people all the BS? It was a GH15, I think, was the guy's name.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, that was an
a
example
shared account. As far to, I know, I'm 99% sure I know a couple of the people that shared that account, and I think Nasser was in part of it initially, but it carried on after Nasser died. But it was, as far as I know, a guy named Shane from Chicago, a guy named Alex from, I think, California, that was like in IT, that knew Nasser, and possibly a few other people that shared the account. And like once I learned or realized that I kind of learned that, you could see almost tell who was posting. And do you know who's amazing at knowing who's really posting? Dante. Because I used to make troll accounts. I used to make troll accounts at like Get Big or whatever, and I'd post one post, and he would message me on my main post or email me, and he'd be like, "Hey, dude, you're this guy, aren't you?" And I'm like, "What the? How do you know that was me?"
Yeah.
He's like, "You just say certain words that I know." Or
it's kind of a funny thing, because I told my wife, laughing, I mean, it's half truth, but if I ever win the Powerball, I know how to cover myself with, you know, blind double, you know, trusts and things like that. But I always tell my wife I'd have to get out of bodybuilding, because Dante would be the first one to find out that I had a ton of money, and not that he would, you know, tell everybody, but that guy can find out so much information. He is so incredibly resourceful that it's almost creepy. Like, how do you find these things out?
I used to make troll accounts on Get Big, and every single one of them, he would message me right away, and I'd be like, "How the hell?" Like, because you know, it's like you can't be tracking my IP, and you know, like, and then because especially at that time, I'd be posting from the hospital, and it'd be like through a VPN or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'm like. I would change things, like, because I used to double space after periods, so I was like, okay, he knows I double space. I would change that, and he would still know. I was like, it's freaked me out a little bit.
He's reading it going, "Oh, nice try, Justin. You didn't double space," which is funny if you think about it, because anybody who is younger listening to this will be like, "Double space?
What does that mean?" Yeah.
My daughter said that to me the other day. She's like, "You double space?
What's a typewriter?"
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, you don't have to anymore because it corrects, but whatever.
If Dante knew everything about everybody, he had all the dirt on everybody.
It's like he's got a database of information or something. I don't know.
I'm glad he does, because every once in a while he'll dig through his old files or something, and he'll send me an old photo that I completely forgot. He sent some of Steve Kuklo and I that I haven't seen in forever. And I'm glad, because like all that stuff, I don't have any of that stuff anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, and it's cool to see, because now because, you know, back then those were like, I mean, some of those were like real cameras, but, you know, like that was the very beginning of, it wasn't a phone camera. You had to bring a digital camera, you know, and you're in the bathroom with a digital camera, and then you upload it to your computer. And so, like, now, you know, guys competing now are going to have, you know, if they care at all, but it'll be saved in their email or on a cloud somewhere. So they're going to have all their pictures. Yeah, I mean, they're going to have all their pictures from their whole career, where, you know, I have like 3, and you know, it would be really cool to have those, but he does, I know, because he tells me he's got like all of them, and at some point he's going to go through, and, you know, he does every once in a while. He must dig through an old hard drive or exterior drive, and he'll send me a couple pics, like, "You remember this?" And I'm like, "No," but it's pretty cool to see the pictures.
Well, I think I've got pictures of you and Steve on stage, and I think it's the Kalamazoo as teenagers.
It was probably the capital city or something. Yeah, it was like, that was like my first show. Yeah. It was, and I didn't know anything about the tan, because I had short hair, but I think I just did my tan to here, and it looks like I'm just bald.
Well, that's
That is
okay because half
glowing
the
white
guys
head.
don't put any color on their face anymore either.
At
I
all
can't
anymore,
figure
yeah.
that out.
Yeah,
for
what
the
was
life of me.
what was the deal with that? I was at the New York Pro and I saw a bunch of guys that didn't have the color on their face. It was really
The
weird
women
looking.
do it. The women almost look like they put white powder on their face. There's like well, if you watch the women's physique from the New York Pro, there were a couple where it's like, that's not just not putting tan on your face. You're actively putting a light color on your face. It's like such a stark contrast.
There was one dude, I think he was in classic physique, that was green.
Every now and then that stain will react with some people, like something to do with the pH of their skin.
Soap or something, yeah.
Like 1 out of 500 or it just messes them up bad. I always tell my clients, I'm like, you've worked so hard and for so long. All the hard work is done. Don't screw up the posing. Don't screw up the tan, the minutia. Pay attention to the details.
Yeah, I always say, always bring a top coat of your own. You can trust the tanners pretty. I mean, for the most part, the tanners at the show, because it used to not be that way. You used to have to do your own tan, and so the tans would be such a wide spectrum. There'd be one guy who actually knew what he was doing, and then a bunch of people that are green or orange or. But, you know, it's nice as a coach not having to lay out the protocol, because it was a pain to type all that out and explain, this many coats, shower after this. But I still usually recommend bring a top coat. Pro Tan does a top coat. They all do top coats. Sun rays, but so that if you go through the whole tanning process, you do your final tan the morning of the show, and you're about to go to the venue, you can't tell really very well. But if you don't look so dark that you're sure you're so dark that it's going to look stupid on stage, that means you're too light. Add a top coat of your own, and then go down to the venue.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, the dude that was green, that was like, I'm like, you wouldn't think you'd see that on a pro stage. It was really weird.
Oh, and that's just like, that sucks. Like all that work, and it's over like that, because you're never winning. You're not winning a show green.
That show was weird, man. The lighting was all weird.
Oh, terrible. There was if on the New York Pro, if you stood in the center of the box, you were under the brightest spotlight I think in human history. It was like 13,000 lumen. But if you took one step to the side on either either edge of the box, the center box, it was great lighting. And if you watch Stu, what's his beef stew? What's his last name? Why can't I
Sutherland. Yeah.
Sutherland, yeah. But he was brilliant. I think Blue Taylor's his coach. I think he coached him, but when he went and did his individual routine at prejudging, he never stood in the center. He stood on one edge of the box where great lighting was, and then he'd turn around and he'd swing his foot over, and then he'd stand on the other edge. But if you stood right in that center, you were under like some kind of high-powered police spotlight, and it washed you completely out. And there were a couple spots on the lineup also where like guys, look terrible, and then they move them and they get under different lighting. The New York lighting was really weird this year.
Well, you know what it was, Justin? I was there in person, man. There was a giant chandelier right in the middle of the front of the thing, and I think they were trying to figure out how to turn it off, and they couldn't get the damn thing off. It was really weird. They had the light on in the audience. I saw them messing with the light between prejudging and finals. They were up there trying to figure it out. So
yeah, that sucks too. Like you do all that work, and that happens every year at the pro qualifiers. And anyone who's coached long enough has had a guy who deserves first call out and comes out in that, when they first line everyone up for quarter turns, and they're on the far end with terrible lighting, and the judges barely even realize they're there. And then, they work them through, and they're already out of first call outs. And that happened. And I this is like the 100th time I bring this up, and I forget the guy's name every single time. But at like the USA's in I think 2017 or 18, there was a guy in third call outs. And when they finally called him out, I don't know where he was through the first work throughs, because I didn't have him first call. I didn't even know who he was. And he comes out in third call out, and he looks ready to win the show, but he was third call out. And he went back, and he comes back North Americans and won North Americans. But he must have got stuck on the end somewhere under a terrible lighting, and it sucks that can happen, but
happens.
Well, the lighting there was actually better on the ends. It looked like to me, being in the audience.
There was that was the best lighting, especially on the viewer's right side was really good lighting.
Yeah, on the right. Yeah, it looked really good over there. But it was weird because they had the lights on in the audience, and there was a giant chandelier right in front of the stage. So that was like right in the center. I think that's what threw it off. Your guy looked good, Joe. Man, I think he had the best condition out of any of it.
Man, he's looking really good right now. He's like, you know, you got those like 2-day out pics, and you're like a little nervous because it's like, oh God, I wish we could step on stage right now.
Yeah,
we got another 24 hours. Don't fuck it up tomorrow, Justin.
That ab and thigh shot he has is just a killer.
Oh yeah. He was. I think he was under 270 on stage, or maybe right on 270. But he's, I think, high 270s right now, and just as sharp. You know, because that second show you're always a little bit fuller because you know, like you fill out and you peak for that first show, and you don't have to jump, you know, right back into brutal hard dieting because you're already in shape. And so he looks really, really good right now. I'm hoping we hold it together because I think, well, I guess Ross is doing Toronto. But I thought Ian for sure would be front runner, and I think Joe is the only guy because Joe will be mid 270s on stage that could hang size wise with Ian. So I thought this was Joe's chance to really kind of make a statement, but we'll see. Oh, well, he looks huge. Actually, did you guys see Hassan's pics? I've never seen him look. He's shredded. I've never seen that dude shredded. I don't know if it was on Instagram or if Joe sent him to me. There's pics somewhere, and he looks really, really good. I've always wondered what that guy would look like because he's a bubble, you know, a human bubble. I've not. He's 5 foot tall, 5 foot wide, 5 foot length. It's a 5 by 5 cube.
I'll pull him up. Let's see here. I've got him.
I'm assuming it was Instagram, but I think Joe might have sent them to me. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, he looks good.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's. Yeah, it's hard to tell, but it doesn't look like there's a ton of structure. You know, like guys will add structure and some clarity or whatever for those pictures, but it doesn't look like he's got a bunch added because that looks like, you know, like regular wood. Usually guys will crank the structure up on Instagram and then you see the wood lockers and they look like.
Yeah, I know how that goes. I get clients that'll send me pictures for check-ins like that. I'm like,
oh God, I tell them like, dude,
filters off, man.
Yeah,
you only hurt yourself. You want to look as bad as possible when you send me pics because then we get you looking as good as possible.
And then swear up and down that they didn't.
Oh yeah, no.
Pictures.
Have you ever had? I've had people Photoshop their photos poorly.
Yeah. I won't share them I've told clients flat out. There's a couple in particular, and they're good people. It's just I'm like I can't do that.
I won't same thing. Well, I tell people, I say take 2 separate sets of photos. If you aren't whatever secure enough or whatever to just let people see the real photos, take the bright photos with a flash and washed out lighting for me, and then take a separate set in your kitchen with when the sun's just right and post those on Instagram. But you send those to me and all you're doing is you're not going to look as good on stage because you look artificially good to me right now.
Yeah. Let's be fair. Stage lighting isn't all that great anyway.
No, it's terrible.
I get people tell me all the time, oh, I looked better, 3 hours after when I was in the bathroom. You're always going to look better in a hotel bathroom.
I'm fat as shit, and I look decent in a hotel bathroom right now.
Or in an elevator or something.
Oh, yeah. If you have people at like a changing room at a mall, like that changing room lighting, I could step on stage in a changing room lighting. I've had people send me pics, Coach, look how I look. I'm like, yeah, you have a single light directly overhead reflecting off mirrors. You got definition and shadows where you shouldn't even have them. You got a 13 pack right now. We know that's not real.
Quick little story. I had to run down to get a pair of sunglasses or something for my wife from the Ball Harbor Mall in Miami, which I did not valet my car because there was nothing but Rolls and Ferraris and that sort of thing. So I go into the Valentino store to get these glasses, and I laughed and told the guy, I said, if I didn't have any type of if I wasn't uncomfortable, I guess I would take a picture in here because the lighting in that boutique was it just like you could have had a show in there and everybody would have looked. It's just funny how that works. But I think that the stage lighting it's like that, because they're literally they need to see, they need to be able to not only find strengths, but they're looking for the weaknesses, and there's no way to hide it there. And anytime there's a shadow that hides the flaws just a little bit, and all you see are those strengths.
Yeah, well, on stage you don't just have one light, you got lights everywhere, and they're so bright that it's hot.
Yeah.
And so if you can't look good even with a flash on your camera, don't expect to look good under lights that hurt from the heat.
Yeah.
Man, the posing room at my gym, there's some magic lights in there. I look like a different person in those pics.
That's like that Milos old Coliseum gym next to the one open air wall. Because I remember Luke Wood, I would always post photos there, and everyone's like, he's going to win the Olympia. I'm like, dude, guys, it's still Luke Wood. He's just standing next to that angled California sun and then Gold's Ennis used to have that one area by the steps that everyone took the pics or the video, and Mitsuru Okabe would always do the battle for the Olympia posing, and everyone would be like, everyone you'd watch like, wow, he's insane, he's winning the Olympia. Then the next guy would pose, you know. But you get that, or King Kamali's kitchen lighting, if you remember that. Always, man, I want to know where that guy lives just so I can take some pics in that kitchen and save them.
Yeah, those pics helped out a guy named Magnum quite a bit. I think he kind of rode the King Kamali train there for a while to stardom, if you will. That's funny because I haven't thought of that name, but Magnum and I went around on the boards. We hated each other. I mean, that guy photoshopped cocks in my wife's mouth in family pictures. It was in family pictures. I couldn't even. And it was
funny because I always have to Photoshop them out of my wife's mouth. Not listening.
I remember asking him about it. Of course, he wasn't going to be honest about it. Funny thing too, though, as much as we hated, because it all started about Phil Heath, and Magnum was claiming that he knew what Phil was doing, and I was friends with Phil, and I knew exactly what Phil was doing,
and it was probably not what Magnum was saying. Unless Magnum was saying practically nothing, it was wrong. Yeah,
it was primarily about insulin and growth hormone, and I just it was back during that time where I would even Dante said, he's like, you're the last person that I ever want to go at confront on the internet. He's like, you're really good at it, but we would battle so bad, and then years later. And I can't even tell you what year because I pulled away from other boards other than Intense Muscle because I was so busy with it. Probably starting right around 11 or 12 in there somewhere. And I was only focused on Intense Muscle, but I went back over to Professional Muscle and I said something to Magnum. I actually messaged him and he was cool as fuck. And we laughed about some shit.
That's funny.
And it was kind of funny. And we reminisced a little bit, laughed at ourselves and stuff. And I remember leaving that exchange with, God, after all these years, I still kind of think you're a douchebag, but I know you kind of think I'm a douchebag. But it was kind of water under the bridge after so long of just despising each other. Just could not stand. And he did far more vicious shit. I mean, man, that's pretty rough, doing shit like that to someone. And he did it on Get Big. And I refused. That's where everyone did it. Well, he was trying to pull me over there. He was trying, and Dante would tell me, he's like, he's saying this. He said, I'm like, you can tell me, but I'm not going there. I will not jump into the lion's den with all those clowns over there. I won't do. I'm going to stay where I'm respected and fuck them, basically.
I went over there. I had several Get Big Troll accounts. One of them was actually Magnum, but no. But it's funny to Phil Heath because at the Junior Nationals 2005, he didn't know what GH was.
Right.
Because I was sitting at a table with him. Chris Perticari took second to him. One of my clients in the heavies. Poor Chris, 19 out of 20 years would have won the overall of the Junior Nationals, but he walked into the year of Phil Heath. But we're sitting around asking him questions. And someone asked him about, GH, and he didn't know what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I explained to him on the phone what a anti-estrogen was. Floored that and this is why he's getting ready for the USAs. Yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, you're working with Honey, like what the hell? Or maybe he had him taking something, but Phil didn't bother to even care what it was.
Phil wasn't working with anyone, I don't think, for the Junior Nationals. It was after he down. But I want so badly to say what he was doing because it would.
I know.
it was like one, it was almost nothing, and two, it was the things you should be doing before.
It's laughable. It's laughable. But yet at the same time, if you factor in, in fairness to Phil, and Phil and I we're not going to be doing lunch anytime soon because of some personal shit that happened with a client of mine. But from a physique standpoint, he's just, he's incredible. There's no denying what he did. I would have no way to be able to deny that. And back before he basically, in my opinion, got chewed up by the sport and changed, which I had a conversation with him about in the very early time back there at Better Bodies in Denver. But anyway, that's another story. But it just ended up that he was, unfortunately for him, in a way, so good that the things that he didn't know, none of us knew in the first year or two that we trained either. The problem he had was he was just so good that he was on another level that it's laughable that he didn't know. I mean, I remember going to, doing a couple shows on things that he did, the USAs or junior nationals on, not knowing any better. And we all did, but we just weren't on that level.
Yeah, we just didn't turn pro on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and he came back to the Colorado State in 2000. I want to say 2004. I'm getting the numbers. He had won it the year before in 2003, but he came back in 2000. That's what it was, 2004, because he had missed the deadline for the registration for junior nationals. So then he's like, I'll just do the Colorado State again. And then ended up going straight to, did he go to the, no, he went to junior nationals and then he went to the USA.
Yeah,
and literally
he junior nationals, and it was, man, what he did was all the wrong things and a tiny amount of the wrong things, and we were just flabbergasted. And then he looked so insane there that the people that know things kind of hounded him, took him under his wing, and he came back 6 weeks later at the USA's looking like he made a year of progress. And then 2-3 months later at he won his first pro show. I don't remember which one it was, or Ironman back then.
I can't remember, Chicago Pro.
But it was the same thing. It was like a very short period of time later, and he looked already like he made a whole nother year of progress. It was just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. And then basically started winning them all in 2011 or all the Olympias. Yeah. So it's like, Jesus.
It's like, I don't know if you've ever heard Ronnie Coleman talk about what he took, and it's like, I don't even think he still knows what he took.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, when people say, like that he couldn't have been natural when he turned pro, or he was competing at like 211 pounds. And then in 2004, he was over 300 pounds. So he gained 100 pounds, Most people don't gain 100 pounds on gear, period. And so if he was already blasting everything and then still gain another 100 pounds, I mean, you have to think about it that way. To me, that's the evidence that, I didn't gain 100 pounds on gear, you know?
Yeah, I've been here 40 years and I haven't gained 100 pounds of muscle.
I know you and I have talked about it before, but that picture of him in high school when he was like 15 and he looked like a grown man.
There's one who's 13. Is that the one in the cast where it's like Ronnie Coleman at age 13, and he's got a cast and he's got 18-inch arms shredded. Some people just play with a different. Well, and I say this all the time. It's just weird how people discredit genetics in bodybuilding when they don't in any other sport. Everyone understands you're not playing left tackle for the Dallas Cowboys if you're not 6'8", 330 pounds,
Right.
And everyone realizes that, steroids make you a better baseball player because exactly. Yeah.
13 years old.
13 years old. Yeah. I don't look that old now. I'm 44. It looks like he just came out of a stint in prison for his graduation. But like everyone recognizes, like the steroid era in baseball, guys were hitting more home runs, but no one thinks that if they just take enough that they'll become Barry Bonds. Or everyone realizes that you either throw 100 miles an hour or you don't. You don't just get to, But for whatever reason, bodybuilding, it's like the one sport where people just don't give any credit to genetics, even though everyone knows someone with maybe not that level, but everyone knows someone with good genetics who grows very, very easily. But somehow they refuse to believe that the pros are that way.
Yeah. I honestly think it's denial.
Yeah.
I really do. I think that admitting it basically says that well, I'm not going to go anywhere because my genetics aren't very good.
Yeah.
So they kind of hold out hope that if they take the right thing or the right combination, that they're all of a sudden, I mean, I still get it from clients who are, I consider to be veterans, that they just don't feel that they have the right combination. And it's just,
and that's the problem, is because two things: it takes so long to build the muscle. You know, it's a decade in the process for most people, and there's so many things along the way. You can mislead yourself, because you start out with, you know, like test and DECA or something, and then you're sure the reason you're not huge is because you haven't tried D-ball or Anadrol or whatever. And there's so many that you can do that to, and then eventually you work your way through all those, and then it must be because I'm not taking enough. So then you can do the same thing and work your way through the doses, and then you get through the higher doses, and then, well, it must be because I haven't tried GH, and then it must be because I haven't tried high dose GH, and then it must be because I haven't tried insulin, you know. And so you got like a decade of stuff to work through before you finally get, you know, before it's finally forced for you to believe that, okay, I've tried everything now. I still don't look like,
or I'm just not willing to take the amount of gear that it takes to get,
like anyone on earth. That's my biggest pet peeve, or it's even less than that. My biggest pet peeve when someone posts a picture looking great and they have to emphasize that they look that way on, you know, doses a child would take, you know, because then I'm like, well, if you look that good taking, you know, 50 milligrams of test every 6 months, like, to me, you're just an idiot then, because you could be Mr. Olympia.
Sure.
You're choosing not to, you know. It's like there's no one out there. You've already made the moral leap or whatever to do this. No one takes, you know, like, I have a, you know, a hardline stance. I'm going to do these illegal things, but I'm only going to do them to this small amount. You know.
Everybody on social media is just on TRT now.
Yeah, it's a trend. It's a phase that I would like to see exit stage right. It's getting kind of old, and not only just them saying it, but even the arguing and going back and forth. Because on the one hand, it shouldn't matter anyway what they're taking. So just shut up and do what you're doing. And I mean, how does that justify your success?
Exactly. Well, it's great. You look great on TRT, but you didn't win the Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
To me, if you look that good on just TRT, now I just think you're an idiot, because you're already doing things. Why not just add a little bit more and start making some money in the sport?
Exactly. Start kicking everybody's ass.
It's funny. I'm very transparent about everything I do, and still people call me a liar.
You can't win. We're in a time right now. This last year's been rough, and I have a feeling it's still going to be. You know, and I didn't like when they were going after everybody from The Rock to, the one thing that I would say was Lion King may have been a little bit different because he was so emphatically denying it. But at the same time, I still fall back on the fact that it just shouldn't matter to anybody what they're doing. I haven't asked Justin if his wife likes anal. It's just not my business.
You can assume.
I don't care. It doesn't impact me. So it's not my business.
Yeah. And I mean, what you're going to do.
From the age. We're from the age, though, the muscle mags. Like, everybody was natural.
Yeah.
No, but everybody was taking metrics, and
exactly.
It was
HMB.
Yeah. And if you think about it, hey, it is a little unfair. Probably more unfair then, because they were very clearly, they were very clearly implying that, the guys in the Muscle Tech ads and, all those ads.
Yeah.
I know when I was younger, when I was a teen and I figured it out, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to take steroids to get big. And I was like, well, I already got 3 years invested. Okay, I'll do it. I mean, it wasn't that difficult of a decision, but it was kind of unfair. I remember thinking that it was kind of unfair. Like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, nobody has said anything about this.
That was the same thing. I was pissed because then like you enter the club, because my first years, there was the internet, but there wasn't even there wasn't bodybuilding internet. Bodybuilding.com hadn't even come out yet. I remember Bodybuilder, I think it was bodybuilders.org was like the only bodybuilding website, and like 97 or something, So I would have loved, but it wasn't like it is now. You had to know someone, and I didn't know anyone. And when I finally knew someone and entered into that, like, welcome to the club, and you find out that it's like all of you fuckers were in this club.
Yeah.
None of you.
Nobody said anything.
8 years into this.
Yep.
I remember being in high school and I bought Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, and I followed his entire routine, and he's died to the T, and I got smaller.
Was that the one where he said that, like, what was it called? Like, he took it 6 weeks before contest, and it worked about as good as a good tan. It made about as much difference as having a good tan or something like that. That one of his books has that quote. I think it's him. It might be Tom Platz. I just remember that quote sticking out, and I was like, that's a tough one to write. I don't think I could write that, knowing what I know.
Well, he just said recently, it was just this past week that said he took 100 milligrams of test and 15 milligrams of D-ball for his last Olympia.
Yeah.
But was that Tom Platz? I don't even think so.
No, Arnold.
No, it was Arnold. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Yeah. He's just trying. He probably figures he was going to be next. He was going to be scrutinized next. Yeah. And decided to put a little something out there proactively to kind of get him off his back.
Yeah, I would. If I was a celebrity, I would be like, "Look, guys, no, I just do a lot of cocaine and heroin," and everyone would be like, "Oh, that's cool, sweet. No, you're good."
I'm not sure what he would have to lose by admitting that he used a lot of shit.
He's talked about it before.
Nearly $1 billion. He's gotten.
Like, does it really matter?
Care? He's almost.
I mean, you've done more egregious things, like, I don't know, having kids with your maid.
Yeah.
So I don't think that you taking gear is really all that bad in the big picture.
He made what was that movie? Jingle All the Way. I mean, there was far worse things he's done.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the story? I'd heard the one that he was 15 and his pediatrician prescribed him D-ball. I think that was the deal.
Really?
Yeah,
I haven't heard.
Told me that. I forget who told me that
pediatrician
story.
Than I got. My pediatrician.
No kidding. I got a lame one.
Yeah.
I was back in Germany.
I just got sexually molested.
I say which is funny you say that, because my doctor at that time, I'm guessing I was 14 or 15, he's giving me the cough test. So essentially my balls are in his hand, and I'm asking him, because it's awkward, if a protein powder will help me to gain muscle. And his answer, no shit, to this day, Dr. Yanatelli, old as fuck. He didn't have any choice on the doctors you went to, because you had a family doctor and you just went to him for, like, I don't know, 150 years, 2 generations or something, unlike today. But anyway, he looked up at me and he goes, "No, protein powder is the devil's food." And I remember thinking, okay, then it definitely works, so I'm going to use it.
Yeah, exactly. That always backfires. I had before physical, we had a school physical, and one of the doctors was a female doctor. And this isn't why this happened. It happened because I was 15 and I would think I was permanently erect. But I'm waiting in line and I'm like third from going in for the physical, and I'm rock hard for whatever, like 15-year-old rock hard, where it's like, like you could hit it with a sledgehammer and things not moving.
Exactly.
And, oh my God. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm sitting next to my buddy, his name is Sean Egan, and I was like, dude, a fucking boner. I don't know, how do I get rid of this? And he tells me that he's like, someone must have told him that, he's like, if you flick your tip, it'll make it go down. So I'm sitting there like, it didn't work. Who would have thought that beating it just solidified it even more? So I'm like just praying to the penis guys, like, please, I can't walk in there with this female doctor trying to pass me for physical so I could play football in 3 weeks. Luckily, somehow it dissipated. It might actually work to my benefit, because I probably had like a 1/10 parsh. So I probably walked in and she was like, "Wow, this 15-year-old's hung."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she didn't say it, but she was impressed. Now let me ask you this: did you take that? This is kind of a transference type thing. Did you, before you went out on stage the first time, go, "Oh my God, what if I get a?"
I was paranoid first time.
I'll bet.
Paranoid. I was like, especially because I was all dehydrated. And so it was like, mostly I was paranoid people might not notice. Blood flow.
Right.
No, I was so worried that was going to happen. But then you get on stage and you realize that you're just struggling to stay alive because you're dehydrated, and those the worries dropped as soon as I got out there, and the worry shifted to that I was going to pass out and die. But no, that first show I was very worried.
These dudes would take Viagra before they go on stage.
I'm praying it would happen, but
you just went what I was thinking, Paul. You went where I was. I'm like, I'll do a lot of things before I go on stage, and I have competed for years, and I have never once thought or thought, okay, I might have a heart up, but I'm not going to take Viagra. I'm not going to take.
I've heard of people
something.
doing that.
I'm not risking it. No, I want.
That's
what you got. No blood flow. What's a good? Yeah, dilate my blood vessels even more. I'm dehydrated. Where's there's already not enough water. My veins are already barely there. It's not, like that always cracked me up. It's like, yeah, like dilate my veins for what? Like it's gonna be an empty garden hose. It's like it'd be like, when Andy Dufresne's crawling through that sewage pipe. Yeah, my veins are big, but there's just a little bit of blood at the bottom.
I like that reference. That's good. Well played.
All right, gentlemen, I need to wrap this one up.
Yeah, I actually got a buddy here from college, football buddy, Dan Price. Shout out to Dan Price. He'll probably never watch this, but I haven't seen him in years. But we're going to go, I don't know, probably do stupid shit for the next few hours.
Nice.
Late Thursday night, man. This is past my, well, it's not past my bednight.
Yeah, well, that's the benefit. Neither of us have to get up for work in the morning. So that's the.
Well, this is like lunchtime for Skip, right?
Yeah. I'm actually going to train. I didn't train earlier.
That's funny.
So I'm going to get a meal and I'm heading to the gym.
Dan's like that. Dan's like Skip too. I told him, I was like, I got a podcast like 9:30. I was like, are you a late night guy? He's like, dude, if I'm in bed by 5, it's a good night. And I was like, oh, okay, then we're fine.
I'm usually up until about 1, but I do all my check-ins at night because people don't respond.
I know, right?
Oh my God, that's so brilliant. I never thought about that because that's my problem all day. I'm like, they're replying as quick as I can type. I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. I never thought of that. The light bulb just went off.
So I do my check-ins.
It's my ADD. I can't write articles. I can't do client work. I can't do anything if there's any distraction. I can't have a TV on. I can't listen to music. I can't do anything.
Yeah, that's smart. No, I've slowly been transitioning to because it can like consume you coaching when your client list gets big. Yep. And so I've kind of tried to make a promise to my wife that like the 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. I'll be with the family. I'm not so great at it, but because I don't mind staying up and I'm naturally up late. And so I'm moving more towards getting some of it done earlier in the day, taking a break to be with the family and then getting the rest of it done at night. But I hadn't thought about the clients not responding part. That's genius. And I
feel like I maximize my time.
Yeah. I feel like a light bulb moment. My whole life has changed right now.
Yeah, that's been my strategy. This is the first. I mean, this past year has been the first time I've actually had like a ton of clients. I've always like coached a couple people, but I'm definitely feeling the pain now that I have like the social media stuff has taken off. It's man, oof. It's a lot. Yeah.
Well, when we talked. Yeah, we talked just a couple months ago when you were telling me
I was like
how many hours it was taken.
I had to do, and then now it's like I got people in contest prep. It's just nonstop, man.
Yeah, I got 7 people competing. If you've noticed, my eyes keep going. They're doing their check-ins. I got 7 people this weekend. And we're carving up, so they're sending me their panic texts right now.
My girlfriend told me the other day, she said she felt like she was married. She was dating my phone, not me. And I'm like, I got to look at these. I mean,
if
it's a Saturday morning.
Yeah. If you're a coach from April through May into early June, there's no weekends. And then again, September to November, like when everyone's qualifying. I mean, the national, all through the summer, you just have really the national shows. It dies down a lot, but April through early June is good luck finding a weekend open.
Well, I'm glad I'm going to do the late show this year. I'm going to do the Masters USAs. That way, hopefully I won't be super distracted.
Yeah. As a coach, you get a little break in the summer. I mean, you still got like your guys doing the national shows, but you're going to have less of them. And then you get a break in around Christmas time. But man, spring is rough.
Well, this is my first year of really experiencing it. So.
What weight class are you, Paul?
Oh God, I was almost 240 on stage last year.
Paul's a big boy. He's tall. Yeah.
I don't know where I'll be this year. I don't know.
Probably
I don't put on that much. Middleweight. Yeah, I don't know that I put on.
Down the middle.
I'm leaner than I was last year at the same weight. I think I sent you those pictures, Justin, comparing this year to last year. but I'm definitely leaner than I was. Daytime weight, I'm around like 280. Fasted, I'm like 270, 271, something like that. But I'm 6'1" is my height. Is Skip freeze up on us again, or no? You still
either that, or he is like
I saw circles there for a minute.
Yeah,
Remember, I'm hardwired,
we
though.
couldn't tell if you were like, if you turned into a mannequin, like that old Kim Cattrall movie. I was waiting for, was it what's that song? Build the Ship Together. Do you remember the movie Mannequin from the 80s?
Oh, yeah.
That's what you turned into. You were motionless.
Just frozen.
I thought you were stunned by my weight, though, Skip.
I get the circles. The circles will start to rotate, and I say I'm hardwired, so it ain't my connection. I don't know where the speed issue is coming from.
It shouldn't be me. It's usually me, but I got Starlink now. I went from 4 megabytes per second to 250. I used to have to.
So you ended up getting. I was just telling my wife tonight. I'm like, I think, because she's like, well, why are you doing it so late? I'm like, I don't know. Probably because he has to go somewhere else to somebody else's house to use internet.
It's changed my life. It's changed my life. Yeah, because I used to have to wait. I used to have to change the client file because it would upload to the drive, and I couldn't trust, and then answer their email, and then come back and hope it had finished changing or uploading. It was, I look back on it with nightmares, but it's been less than a week, and it's already changed my life. I can do podcasts now.
Thank you, Elon Musk.
Yes, thank you.
Get his car and his internet now.
Yeah, I get anything he puts out at this point.
When do you get on the stage, Skip?
I would like to be on stage next year, but I'm trying not to pay too much attention or get ahead of myself, because everything is injury free right now. My training is going so well. So I am really honestly just focused on training, trying to get size back in my leg, and it's coming back, but size back in my legs, and just really getting weeks and months under my belt. If I can get through this year, and I think I can, I mean, the way things are going, everything looks really good. I continue to train smart and listen to feedback and, my body and everything else, just be really smart. If I can get through this year, I have a feeling that I'll feel confident that I will be good to be able to prep for some shows next year, but I don't know what, because it's been a while since I've been on stage. So I may have to put my toe in the water a little bit, do a few. I'll tell you what I'll do. If I'm being honest, I'll literally sneak into some smaller shows, probably national qualifiers, but smaller shows down here without telling anybody, and enjoy it instead of being under the microscope, and see how things go. But ultimately, I'd be lying if I said that I don't want to get back to, Masters Nationals. So that's where I was headed when I tore my glute at about 6 weeks out. So I may have gotten smoked. I may not have. I don't know. I know a couple guys in there that I have beaten before, but that's time. That's not within the last 4 or 5 years. I can look at them and I can try to be realistic and go, you know what, I would have been competitive, but I don't know, because I wasn't there, because I wasn't able to make it. So I'm not going to go there and get smoked. I'm going to go there if I can be competitive, and we'll just see how it goes. But I'm trying to just trying to enjoy the training and the passion of it all, and just enjoy it. And then I'll see, as it gets towards the end of the year, what I want to do.
Yeah, I feel like the race car at the last lap of the race with a dented fender and gas tanks empty, the windshield's cracked. I'm just trying to make it. I should have done Masters Nationals last year after my show. I don't know why I didn't. It was pretty dumb.
Sometimes you just had enough, though. I mean, it just, everybody's situation, especially with our older demographic, it's just a lot different. You got families, you got careers, you got businesses.
So that's
so
what
many
it was
things.
for me.
And if you're 23 and you're not, I don't see an excuse for a 23-year-old to not be kicking everybody's ass, because you don't have much stress in life, and you don't have many, in my opinion, many obstacles. I have a lot more respect for the older demographic to be able to balance their passion for bodybuilding and competing with their personal lives. And it's not always balanced.
Yeah,
but it can be
secondary.
Yeah, and it can be. I think that if you're in it long enough and you're structured enough and you're planful and organized, I think it can be balanced. I think people can still be good parents and good spouses, and you know, your business or your career shouldn't suffer, but it is a lot to juggle. There's no question.
It is a lot, but I enjoy it. It's a fun hobby, and we'll see how it goes.
Very cool. That's why I asked what weight class you were in.
Yeah. I'm the big guys, man. I was hoping to be 250, but I don't think that's going to happen. What do you think, Justin? 240 again?
I think it would be heavier than last time. I mean, I still feel like we were over dieted a little bit last time.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in decent shape, you know, at a waking 270. So you don't see you having 30 pounds to lose, you know. I mean, maybe not a stage weight of 250, but definitely an in shape 250, you know, and the afternoon, you know, Friday afternoon or something, Thursday afternoon before the show.
Well, I got my Sierra stem now, so maybe that'll put me over the top.
There you go.
That's the missing thing.
That's the missing thing.
I've got that boner that Justin was talking about, waiting for his physical.
You're gonna get one. Both of you guys are stepping on stage with one now.
I'm taking the Viagra before I go out. Yeah. That's gonna tip me over 240. All right, guys. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. This was fun catching up with both of you. I appreciate you guys, and thank you. And audience, thank you for supporting my channel, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Take care.